Transform your audience with powerful presentations from EMJ Marketing's elite speakers. Check out their website for more information at emjmarketing.com. 6 games in the NHL tonight. Dare I say the biggest is here in South Florida. The Panthers are home to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa's won 8 in a row, and Seth Jones will make his Florida Panthers debut 2 days after being acquired from the Chicago Blackhawks. And we welcome in alum of both the Lightning and the Blackhawks, Rich Sutter, joining us today from Lethbridge, Alberta. How you doing, Richie?
Good. How are you, bud?
Good. Good to talk with you. A 13-year NHL veteran hockey man. I'm going to throw this to you because I've had so many Panthers fans say to me, is this a good deal for the Panthers? How are you answering that?
Well, I'm just look. Obviously, they've got something to figure out with Aaron Ekblad as part. That's the reason why this deal was done. I mean, Billy can say what he wants, all he wants, but somewhere back in on the burner there, that where is Aaron Ekblad going to play into this if he plays into it all in terms of does he stay or does he go? Do you let him go or let him walk free agency in the summertime, or you try and find a way to sign him? But if you do that, then where are you finding room? And that being said, you need 8 or 9 defensemen minimum to win a Stanley Cup, and Aaron Ekblad has to be involved in that group too. So there's this going on, with the balls right now. What are you going to do? And Seth Jones can be an important part of that group. There's no doubt. It's how hard is Seth Jones going to want to play when the chips are down too? Because I've had Seth. I had him in Columbus. Billy knows him just as well. So does Gregory Campbell. But it was concerning just the way he left Chicago. Let's call a spade here. I mean, if you're a professional hockey player and if you're a Nick Plato in that group, who was also a teammate with Seth in Columbus, I don't think that would have went over very well about how that was handled. Either it was handled or together individually by Seth and the Blackhawk group or whatever was done. But to come out and say that, you want to move on, I get it. But you're also the guy that wanted to leave Columbus too, sign somewhere else for more money. And then to come out and the way it came out, especially the game after he came out publicly, and it was about, he's possibly moving on, but I'll be everything I can while I'm here. But then they go into, I think it was Utah, and get routed pretty good that night. And for him to go out to the media after the game about how guys aren't doing this, how guys aren't doing that. Well, to me as a teammate, I would have been pissed off because you've already got one foot out the door yourself. Well, you shouldn't be talking about the media about how whether or not how hard your teammates are playing, because look in the mirror, yourself too. So there's concerns. I mean, he's got huge upside potential to help a club win a Stanley Cup, but there's concerns about when you go about doing your business around how you do your business at $9 million a year. I don't think that gives you the right to speak the way you spoke, definitely. But you better walk in that dressing room and check your humbleness and your ego at the door.
You watch enough of these Panthers games, you know how the team's built. The one thing I'm hearing from the Chicago people is that if he's not asked to be a leader like he was in Chicago, because he's not going to be asked to do that here, it might be a good fit. Do you go along with that?
Well, I think you to some degree you can say that, Rod, but when you're getting paid $9 million a year, you can't escape that number. That's attached to your jersey and to your nameplate everywhere you go. So if you're making $9 million a year, you're not just another player on the hockey team just asked just to go and do your business. You're going to be looked upon to do certain things, and one of those things is to be a leader. And can you be that leader? And really, are you that leader? And so there's going to be some internal pressure there put on him, whether he likes it or not. Look, the Sam Bennetts of the world, the Barkovs of the world, the Sam Reinharts, Matthew Tkachuk's, these guys are all leaders. And I'm sure he'll get on page with them awfully quick because he's definitely an incredible talent. I mean, not many guys in the game can be as big as him, can skate as well as he can move pucks like he can, and just do a lot of things. And for me, add that guy to your top 4. He's a minute muncher. And Yeah, that guy to your top four. I kind of laughed. I read an article yesterday about it was some guy in Canada here talking about how these other guys are only going to play 8 to 10 minutes a night the rest of the year. Well, the guy who wrote that article about saying that third pairing is going to play 8 to 10 minutes. I find that hard to believe too, because look, you're going to need a whole lot of defensemen to win a Stanley Cup. And as hard as the Panthers like to play, and how Paul likes those guys to play, you're going to need players, and you're going to need guys to play minutes. So, look, I hope they can get this going now. Like Bill's always been good at making deals before the deadline, and maybe just tweaking at the deadline. So he's done his deal. I think this is exactly what they did need in terms of adding that guy who can play in the top 4 or 5 in the back end, and now hopefully they can move forward with their group.
I talked to Joe Bull this morning. I asked him to come on this week, and he's like, let's wait until after the deadline because it's going to be wild. So how wild do you think it's going to get, Rich?
This is the first time, I think, in a long time. It's kind of funny. We talk every year, Rod, and you and I have talked off the air about this, is that when it comes to trading deadline and who makes the playoffs and who doesn't when it's all said and done, how many good teams don't make the playoffs? There's always a real 4 or 5 real good ones that don't make it, but there's 4 or 5 that have no right making it or even being in the conversation, so they're out. But that being said, this is the first time I really believe in a while that, look, there's a number of teams that are right there. And it's just a matter of what can they do? How can they make things fit? I think you're going to look more at hockey trades more than ever at this trading deadline, because the cap is moving forward starting next year. So I think you're going to look just at hockey trades because how close teams are to being right on the bubble of making it. And you're not, obviously you got to make a trade to make it fit within both teams' caps. But I think this is going to be a year more than ever where you're gonna have to try and make a trade that it's not about the cap first and foremost. It's about, can this guy move the needle in your locker room to make a difference to get you into the playoffs?
Well, 25 teams are either in a playoff spot or within 4 points of a playoff spot. So statistically, what you're saying, that's all true. There hasn't been this many teams in contention this late ever. So that's pretty cool. But it's also a little confusing for people that aren't following that closely, Rich. Like Mikko Rantanen is available. They just got him. What's your read on that situation in Carolina?
I think there's a lot of people around the league paying a lot of very close attention to it. I'm sure there's a number of GMs that are calling to see what it's going to take to Eric Tulsky there. And obviously there's a lot of teams that are calling him. Like, you got to do your diligence. That's your job, is to make that call and say, okay, what's this going to take? Even though you probably think that your chances are slim and none. But I think your responsibility to your group and to your organization is you got to make that call. I think there'll be a number of teams. I'm sure there has been a number of teams that have made that call already. But he seems to certainly not being in any hurry to make a decision. Carolina, I think, has fallen back a little bit. No, they're not playing as well, or I thought they'd be where they are today where they are today, even with Ratton in there. So there is a concern. I want to see them win. I want to see them do well. But when I look at this and I go, well, he's not signed yet, and he's taking his old darn time about it. What is he really thinking? Because I think if you wanted to really play in Carolina, and if the numbers are there that everyone is saying there in terms of dollars, what are you waiting for? And you got to wonder, if you're a GM and you've made this big deal, can you afford to sit and wait and say, okay, now the deadline's passed, we did doing about it, and he's not signed. Now what? Come July 1. So I think they're in an awful tough spot. I think they've got to force the issue a little bit here in the next couple days to see where are you at. And if nothing's happening, I'm sure the phones are going to be going 24/7 trying to figure out what can we do to get something in place.
Randy or who is it here? Yeah, Randy writes in, he goes, apparently teams are waiting for their next 2 games before deciding on being a buyer or a seller. Where, when, and why did it change, Rich, to not go into the last day? Teams getting their deals done ahead of time.
I think because there's a lot of situations, honestly, Rod, where more people get their fingers in the jar in the last 24 to 48 hours. So it becomes a little more frenetic. Becomes a little bit more, the stakes, I think, obviously go up because you get another team involved, and then you get another team involved. Now the stakes go up in terms of what it's going to cost. And I believe that's why teams are doing things a little bit earlier. I know that's what Billy's doing in Florida, and I give him kudos to him for doing it, because that's, to me, that is just smart. And it's less stress, I think, on the group come trade deadline day. It's less stress on your staff to, well, what do we got to do to make this better? Can we make it better? I'm sure you're going to put the feelers out and see what you can do, always, like Bill will still be doing. But at the end of the day, to get the burden off your shoulders in terms of getting the heavy work done early, I think is a very wise thing.
Yeah, and you're seeing it in all leagues, and teams that wait to the last minute, especially with signing guys in the offseason, letting you get into camp, are the teams that are tanking. So you should be working ahead and planning ahead. Any last thoughts? What's else on you? We got 3 minutes left here. You can cover a lot in 3 minutes. What else is on your mind hockey-wise right now? Hang on. Sorry. Control Dog writes that he's asked multiple times if you could give your take on Connor Bedard's situation in Chicago. He's asking about Connor's future, but he's not going anywhere. How do you feel about Connor Bedard's status in Chicago?
Well, he's going nowhere, but I think the onus is, they fired a good coach because they didn't think they were doing enough as a group. But I think the onus has to fall back on the guy that's making the personnel decisions around there, and you know who that is, in the GM. So I just think that they have not done very much to help Connor Bedard move forward, and to me that's very disappointing. I believe that you ask a lot of people around the league, they'd say the same thing, that it's difficult for a guy like Nick Foligno to come in there and hold Connor Bedard's hand, because he knows he's not having to do that. But when you look around at the support group, what have you got? You've got a lot of other good young players around you, but you need guys that play 5, 6, 8, 10 years in the league that are bona fide players that can help you get through a lot of these tough times and help sledge through some of the stuff that Connor's having to go through. And there's just not enough of that there.
No, and dwindling. Taylor Hall, gone. Seth Jones, gone. I'm not saying what kind of team guys they are, but they're bona fide players, as you just said. And there's not a lot of those around there. Rich, listen, I would love to go on, but Rachel Homan is coming in next, and I like her.
Good for Rachel.
So.
Thank you very much. You congratulate on behalf, and we'll be following her and cheering her on.
Okay, I will. She's probably watching right now. For sure. Richie, thanks for this. Great job, man. Good seeing you.
Talk soon.
A member of hockey's first family, Rich Sutter. A member of curling's first family in next, Rachel Homan, 5-time Canadian Women's Champion. We'll be right back here on Game Plus TV, streaming live and podcasting wherever the best podcasts are found.